Welcome back to my channel Zorvax Animal. Today we are going to talk about camel versus giraffe and discover what would happen if the powerful survivor of the desert faced the tallest giant of the African wild in an intense battle for survival. Far across a dry land where golden sand slowly mixes with the open savanna and hot winds move beneath the burning sky, a giant camel walks steadily through the harsh terrain with incredible endurance, its massive body built to survive endless heat, powerful storms, and long journeys across dangerous lands where most animals would collapse from exhaustion. While nearby among the tall trees and dry grass a towering giraffe stands proudly above the wilderness, its long neck reaching high into the sky while its enormous legs carry enough strength to deliver deadly kicks capable of breaking bones instantly. The atmosphere across the wild slowly becomes tense as both giant animals notice each other near a shrinking water source during a brutal season of heat and drought, because survival now forces even peaceful creatures to defend territory and precious water against any rival standing in their way. The camel raises its heavy head and releases deep warning sounds through the dusty air while the giraffe steps forward carefully, staring down at the desert giant with alert eyes and powerful legs ready for defense if danger appears. Strong wind sweeps across the battlefield while silence surrounds both animals for several tense moments, and suddenly the camel moves aggressively toward the water source, forcing the giraffe to react instantly by swinging one enormous leg downward with terrifying force. Dust explodes across the dry ground as the camel barely avoids the deadly kick before charging forward with surprising speed for such a massive animal, slamming its heavy body toward the taller opponent. Furious sounds echo across the savanna as both giants begin circling each other aggressively beneath the burning sun, one relying on towering height, balance, and devastating kicks while the other depends on endurance, heavy strength, and incredible toughness built through survival in the world's harshest deserts. The brutal confrontation between the towering giraffe and the fearless camel quickly transforms into a dangerous battle of power, stamina, and survival where every movement across the dry wilderness could decide which giant remains standing in the end. The burning heat across the dry savanna grows even harsher as powerful wind carries dust through the open land, and after their first violent clash both the camel and the giraffe now stand facing each other near the shrinking water source with heavy breathing and growing aggression, because neither giant animal is willing to retreat from the precious territory during the brutal drought spreading across the wilderness. The towering giraffe lowers its massive body slightly while keeping its enormous legs prepared for another deadly strike, its long neck moving carefully as sharp eyes remain locked on the desert survivor below, because despite the camel's heavy strength the giraffe understands that one perfectly timed kick could instantly end the battle, while nearby the camel stomps the dry ground aggressively and releases loud warning growls through the hot air, its thick body showing incredible endurance. Even beneath the burning sun a survival instinct slowly transforms the peaceful desert giant into a dangerous fighter. Silence spreads across the battlefield for several tense moments while dust moves around both animals, and suddenly the giraffe attacks first by swinging one giant leg downward with explosive force aimed directly toward the camel's head. The camel barely escapes the devastating strike at the last second before charging forward aggressively and slamming its heavy shoulder against the giraffe's side with enough power to force the taller animal backward across the dusty ground. Furious sounds echo across the savanna as the giraffe struggles to regain balance while the camel continues pushing forward using its massive body weight and endurance to pressure the taller opponent away from the water source. But the giraffe quickly recovers and counters with another brutal kick that crashes into the camel's shoulder, sending dust flying everywhere across the battlefield. The powerful strike forces the camel backward for the first time, proving how dangerous the towering giant truly is when defending itself. Both animals now realize that the battle is becoming far more serious than a simple territorial fight because each attack grows more violent while exhaustion slowly begins draining strength from their massive bodies beneath the brutal African heat. The giraffe circles carefully with towering height and deadly legs while the camel continues relying on heavy strength, toughness, and relentless pressure to survive. Deep across the dry wilderness the dangerous clash between the tallest giant of the savanna and the fearless survivor of the desert moves toward an even more brutal stage where only one powerful animal may control the precious water source in the end. The brutal African heat continues rising across the dry wilderness as dark clouds slowly gather above the savanna, and after surviving several dangerous attacks both the camel and the giraffe are now exhausted, wounded, and completely focused on protecting the shrinking water source that has become the center of their violent struggle for survival. The giant camel stands near the dusty ground, breathing heavily while bruises and painful injuries cover its thick body from the giraffe's devastating kicks. Yet despite the pain, the desert survivor refuses to surrender because years of enduring harsh deserts and endless heat have made the camel incredibly tough and determined even against larger opponents. While nearby, the towering giraffe slowly circles with sharp eyes locked on the camel below, its long legs trembling slightly from repeated collisions and constant movement beneath the burning sun. But even exhausted, the giraffe remains terrifyingly dangerous because one direct kick could still shatter bones instantly. Strong wind moves across the battlefield while silence spreads around both animals for several tense moments, and suddenly the giraffe launches another explosive attack by swinging its enormous legs downward with crushing force. The camel reacts instantly by moving sideways before charging forward aggressively and smashing its heavy body against the giraffe's side once again, forcing the taller giant backward dangerously close to a rocky slope beside the dry water source. Furious roars echo through the savanna as dust explodes around them while both massive animals continue struggling for dominance. The giraffe fights desperately to keep balance on the unstable ground while the camel pushes forward relentlessly, using its superior endurance and body strength to pressure the taller opponent. Suddenly, the giraffe counters with a brutal kick that slams directly into the camel's shoulder, sending the desert giant stumbling backward across the dry earth while pain surges through its exhausted body. For the first time, both animals begin realizing how deadly the battle has become because every movement now drains more energy while injuries continue slowing their reactions beneath the extreme heat. Thunder rumbles above the wilderness as wind grows stronger and darkness slowly spreads across the savanna, creating a terrifying atmosphere around the battlefield. Deep beneath the stormy sky, the savage clash between the fearless camel and the towering giraffe moves closer toward its final and most dangerous stage, where only one giant may survive the brutal fight for territory and water. The dark storm finally reaches the dry savanna as thunder crashes across the sky and powerful winds sweep dust through the battlefield, turning the fight between the camel and the giraffe into a terrifying struggle beneath rain, mud, and chaos, while both giant animals are now pushed to the edge of exhaustion after hours of non-stop fighting near the shrinking water source. The massive camel stands heavily in the muddy ground, breathing painfully while bruises and injuries cover its thick body, yet even wounded, the desert survivor remains incredibly dangerous. Because its enormous strength and endurance still allow it to charge forward with crushing force, while nearby the towering giraffe struggles to keep balance on the slippery earth, its powerful legs shaking slightly from repeated collisions and heavy impacts, but still capable of delivering deadly kicks strong enough to break bones instantly if the camel gets too close. Rain begins pouring harder across the savanna while lightning flashes above the battlefield, briefly illuminating both giant animals staring at each other through the storm in complete silence. Suddenly, the giraffe attacks first with explosive aggression, swinging one massive leg downward toward the camel's head with terrifying force. But the desert giant reacts quickly and barely avoids the devastating strike before charging forward aggressively through the mud and slamming its heavy body directly into the giraffe's side. Furious sounds echo across the wilderness as the taller animal stumbles dangerously near the edge of the muddy slope while struggling desperately to remain standing. The camel continues pushing forward with relentless pressure, using endurance and raw strength to force the giraffe backward step by step. But the towering giant suddenly counters with another brutal kick that crashes into the camel's shoulder and sends the desert survivor sliding across the wet ground. Both animals now breathe heavily while exhaustion and pain slow their movements more than ever before, yet neither one is willing to surrender because survival instinct and control of the precious water source continue driving them forward despite the brutal storm surrounding them. Thunder shakes the savanna again as mud and rainwater cover the battlefield, and deep beneath the violent sky the savage confrontation between the towering giraffe and the fearless camel moves toward one final clash where strength, endurance, and timing will decide which giant remains standing in the wild. The violent storm slowly begins fading as the first light of morning spreads across the soaked savanna, and after hours of brutal fighting, the camel and the giraffe now face each other for the final time near the muddy water source, both exhausted, injured, and barely able to remain standing while cold wind moves through the silent wilderness around them. The giant camel breathes heavily as mud and rainwater drip from its wounded body, its powerful legs shaking from exhaustion after surviving countless deadly kicks from the taller opponent, Yet the fearless desert survivor still refuses to surrender because years of surviving harsh deserts and endless hardship have made the camel incredibly stubborn and strong even at the edge of collapse, while nearby the towering giraffe stands weakly near the muddy slope with bruised legs and painful injuries across its body from repeated collisions with the heavy desert giant. But even now the tallest animal of the savanna lowers its massive body defensively because one final kick could still decide the outcome of the battle. Silence covers the battlefield for several tense moments while both exhausted giants stare at each other beneath the fading storm, and suddenly the giraffe releases a loud warning cry before launching one desperate final attack by swinging its enormous leg downward with terrifying force aimed directly toward the camel's head. The camel reacts instantly and charges forward at the same moment, smashing its heavy body against the giraffe before the deadly kick can land properly. Both giant animals crash violently through the muddy ground as dust, water, and broken earth explode across the battlefield. Furious sounds echo through the savanna while the giraffe struggles desperately to regain balance, but exhaustion and slippery ground finally become too much for the taller giant after the long brutal fight. The camel continues pushing forward with its remaining strength, forcing the giraffe backward until the towering animal finally collapses heavily beside the muddy water source, breathing weakly and unable to continue the battle. The camel steps backward slowly, exhausted but victorious beneath the rising morning sun while silence returns once again to the wild savanna. In the end the giraffe proves itself to be an incredibly powerful and dangerous giant capable of delivering devastating attacks with deadly precision, but the camel's unmatched endurance, toughness, and relentless determination ultimately allow the fearless desert survivor to win the legendary Battle of the Wilderness.